To moderate this session, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Uday Kulkarni, Director, Utopias. Mr. Kulkarni heads Utopias, which is in the business of vertical transportation consultancy and also into coaching, mentoring, and training of corporate, advising them in strategizing their business and supporting in tram building. He started Utopias after more than 30 years of experience in the elevator industry when he retired as president of Schindler India and Southeast Asia in 2020. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir. Our esteemed speakers for this panel are Ms. Juhi Rajput, founder, Alliance for Inclusion and Accessibility. First generation women entrepreneur. She started her entrepreneurial journey at the age of 25. Currently, she is the MD of Aracus Media Private Limited. She founded SEEPS India Infratech Solutions Company, bringing innovative patented technologies to India, and is also a partner at Sandha & Co., which is engaged in electrical utility control room and AMC services. Thank you so much for joining us today, Juhi. My next speaker is architect Indrajit Kembavi, founder Kembavi Architecture Foundation. Can we have a round of applause for him, please? He has specialized in institutional architecture at Sir J.J. College of Architecture, Mumbai. He has worked with architect Gerard Dacuna in Goa on a book of Goan residential architecture called Houses of Goa. He works as a design associate with KAF since 1997. He is also into construction, where he is a partner with two reputable firms. His focus is on management systems, design, and liaison. Thank you so much for joining us today, Architect Indrajit. My next speaker is Dr. Paresh M. Karya, Director, West, PAPL Corp. As a senior corporate leader, he has proven his ability to take businesses to the next level with teamwork, collaboration, innovation, and execution. He has more than 30 years of extensive experience in handling business divisions, various business divisions, and he has been actively involved in corporate leadership, training, and coaching. Thank you for joining us, and can we have a round of applause for him? My next speaker is Mr. MVT Satish Kumar, General Manager, Planning and Development, My Home Constructions Private Limited. He is a member of Indian Green Building Council and a member of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. His expertise was predominantly in planning and execution of base build projects and pre-development analysis for new projects, especially in its community developments and large integrated parks. He comes with 19 years of experience. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir. And my final speaker for today is Mr. R. Venkatesh, Director, Magnetic FAAC India Private Limited. He has been in the space of building automation for more than 25 years, and he is currently looking into the development and deployment of IoT devices. Thank you so much for joining, and over to Mr. Kulkarni. Thank you.
Thank you, Kanishka. Good afternoon to all the audience, the panelists and speakers. Welcome to this session. I'll just go through a very brief introduction. We have Juhi Rajput, founder of Alliance for Inclusion and Accessibility. Indrajit Kembavi, who is an architect. Dr. Paresh Karya, a vertical transportation person. MVT Satish Kumar, who is from my home, one of the leading developers of South India. And Mr. Venkatesh, he is also directly, indirectly related to vertical transportation, if I'm not mistaken, right? So we follow the rule of ladies first. Madam, name of your organization is very interesting, quite interesting. Can you spend a minute or two on what it means and what it does?
Certainly, thank you so much. So I'll give you a little background before I tell you about the Alliance. So the Government of India, under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, launched Accessible India campaign, also known as Sugam Bharat Abhiyan in 2015, to facilitate barrier-free urban development in our country. So it focuses on three broad domains: built environment, transportation, and ICT. And in 2021, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, they launched, or released rather, harmonized guidelines and standards. So it, to facilitate again, to guide and sensitize people and facilitate the approach towards accessibility in the built environment. So it addresses the needs of persons with disabilities, women, elderly, and children. So to support the same, I for Humanity Foundation, we launched a platform, Alliance for Inclusion and Accessibility. And the objective of the same is to again guide and sensitize different stakeholders towards accessibility in the built environment and to motivate them in contributing to make our country more accessible and inclusive. So we've created a platform to bring different stakeholders. So like we have policy makers, state and city administrators, innovators and technology providers, think tanks, educational institutions, experts, etc. So I'm happy to share that National Institute of Urban Affairs and National Institute of Construction Management and Research, they have joined as the knowledge partners. And Madhya Pradesh is the first state partner. We have NAREDCO, which is National Real Estate Development Council, as our association partners, and we have IOCL, HPCL, BPCL, Faridabad Metropolitan Development Authority, Smart Cities, etc. They all have joined as the organization partners. So this is exactly what we do, bring all these stakeholders on one platform, and we are motivating them to work towards making the built environment or buildings more accessible and inclusive.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting and I think challenging in today's, especially our country, if you consider the way we make the rules and regulations. Okay, the second question I think I'll address to Indrajit and maybe you can also try and answer that. How important is it today in considering the factor of making buildings more accessible and inclusive with the help of technology such as AI and digital twinning, and what are the challenges you are facing? Yeah, maybe Indrajit can start and then Juhi can add to it.
See, accessibility is a very serious challenge in our country, whether it begins with our roads, it begins with the access to buildings, from the buildings itself, now the access for vehicles, the access for human beings, access for disability. So, access is a very critical point. Transportation has become a very critical point, and I think urban planning in our country is lacking. The country is growing faster than it's developing today, and we are seeing a lot of challenges that are being faced. The sites are getting tight, we don't have places to put our cars in, and which is giving a huge impetus to vertical parking systems. So the accessibility is not just restrictive to a human scale, but it has now started evolving to even the vehicular transport. And as an economy, we are not like the South. We are not like Southeast Asia, where we are, highly dependent on public transport. We do have a huge reliance on private transport also. So the greatest challenge that we see today is particularly in the vehicular parking systems and other areas. In terms of human transportation, like elevators or escalators or travelators, I think we do have a lot of technology. A lot of things are already in place, and things are moving ahead. The challenge now is, again, sustainability is the key. The efficiency has become a huge key today, both from a capex as well as an opex perspective. So sometimes the value between capex and opex is something that requires a lot of study, a lot of understanding, and I think the need of knowledge sharing, the need of assimilating information has become extremely critical at this stage today. We're looking at where the transition from growth to development is happening.
Yeah, I think probably Juhi can add to it.
Yes, technology has a very, very crucial role to play, and we can't really deny that, especially AI and digital twinning. Uh, if I talk of Accessibility and RPWD Act, Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act, it recognizes 21 types of disabilities. But as of now, we are only taking care of 9 types of disabilities. So this is where technology can play a very, very important role. Through AI and digital twinning, architects can actually come up with a design specification which caters to the needs of other types of disabilities as well, and they can do design simulation and evaluate the performance and help in making these buildings more accessible and inclusive. So as far as challenges are concerned, who's going to bear the cost, the high initial cost of these technologies? Developers have a set rule. Like I was talking to one of the panelists that, this is the particular cost in which I want to come up with the building. So who's actually going to bear the cost of these technologies? And And also the reliability and accuracy of the data. From where is this data coming from? Also, are we taking into consideration the needs of the users? Are we really consulting them? Are we taking a feedback from them? That is another very important area, because if we are creating a technology, if we are using it, and if it is, I mean, the end product is not really useful for them, then I think there's no point spending even that much money. So I think these are some of the challenges according to me.
Yeah, I think in fact, taking a point from what you said, Indrajit, parking system, in fact, is the biggest challenge in vertical transport, that is the elevators. Because I think they are at least 15, 20 years behind in our country. While outside world, they have a system of build and operate for the parking system people, which is not true in India. I don't know how it's going to move, but city of Mumbai is a big problem. Now I think Bangalore probably will face that. Other cities are still, you have a scope of expansion horizontally, so not so challenging. Maybe 10 years down the line it will be. Having said that, let me come to the third question. That is probably, I will address it to Venkatesh and then Indrajit can add on. When you start designing a building, do you take first step, identify the utilities which have potential effectively, leveraging on the use of AI, discuss it with the building owner, developer, or what is the flow like? How does it work?
See, we are, to be very honest, still pretty new with AI. And AI is now, engulfing us at a very quick pace. But the information and knowledge on AI is pretty low. But all of us are aware very clearly that where AI can be applied. And there is a huge demand now, both from consumers as well as builders of project, whether they're developers or, institutional space, or you look at airports, because, AI can help us in optimizing a lot of systems. Like when we typically look at airports, the highest load is in the mornings or in the evenings, whereas in the afternoon the loads can be much lesser. So we can have an integrated system by which we can optimize the number of elements or number of components which are deployed during different stages, and keeping it idle at different phases, thereby saving on a lot of energy. And now I think all of us have taken a carbon neutral pledge by 2050. So sustainability has become a huge, need and a necessity for all of us, and we cannot escape that. And the only way we can, really attain the pledge and make it successful is by integrating IoT and AI.
What about you, Venkatesh? Any comments on this?
Yeah, I think he touched upon the IoT point, which I'll just briefly go in. I think it's important today that we have data points coming in from all of the building services, so that not only that we are talking about past information which we probably do not have as data points as yet, but for all the AI and ML to work efficiently, you need to have future data points coming in. And while we talk about accessibility, inclusivity, a lot of these data points will help us to define how we want to go in the next stages as we grow into the building. The second part is the sustainability part, which is if you do not build systems which are long term, both in terms of operational as well as in terms of cost efficiency that you can manage, I think whatever efforts that we are putting in now is not going to be helping us in future. And you just touched upon the point saying that globally, parking systems are far more efficient. The main aspect is because we build certain things only for having a non-futuristic goal. You're talking about only 5 years as a horizon, whereas a lot of these buildings are being built with 25 years as a usability horizon. So I think a lot of these need to be also brought into the picture.
Okay, let's come to vertical transportation, which is today I think parking system also comes under that heading. While most of the big ones in the industry have started offering their AI, this is a question I think I'll address to Dr. Paresh and probably to Mr. Satish, which is believe are very product specific. They are very product specific. Like if the elevator AI is there, it will be only for the people using elevators. But is it a challenge when you need to marry the same to the building management system? Is this true? Is that true, or what is it? So Paresh, probably you can start on that, and maybe
Yeah, I think
Satish.
this question is very interesting. I will tell you, long experience in VT. The answer partially yes. The product specific VT versus BMS, there are problems, but lot of successes also to marry each other, provided the product specific features marry to the BMS protocol and data security requirement. One more addition I would like to tell you, nowadays EMS, elevator monitoring system, is very popular. All these product specific companies talk about that yes, BMS is fine, but why can't, and this is add-on, right? And EMS is basically focused on vertical transportation. And how it works, it uses artificial intelligence, data analytics, and other communication protocol, and it gives you hundreds of output time, real time, and it can be integrated with your digital application. So what is happening nowadays, this BMS are interested to have EMS part of it, right? And I think today there was one product, Kala, I think you can add further, which is touchless, Uday. So now that marrying each other is easy now. So this is my input.
So I'll
I
just
think
touch
Mr.
upon-
Satish can add some. Yeah, you want to add something? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. No, just to touch upon that. So whatever we create, I was talking about sustainability. Whatever we create as new technologies, we should be able to keep it open in all forms. So it doesn't need to be, it's basically hardware agnostic, and it's also not, married to a specific product. So that's what Kala is about, and it's a platform. It's a SaaS platform which allows different elevators to be monitored in a single platform.
So basically, if I have to say a comment on this, like what happens here is once you start using an open system, okay, it is much easier for you to integrate with any other open system like BIM, for example. If I have to say, if I have to manage a entire building in facility management, if it is a closed system, it's very difficult for you to integrate. So now, most of the earlier point of time, the people used to, like some of the elevator suppliers used to have non-integrative systems. So where people it was like backnet. If I have to integrate it using a backnet, it was not allowing us to do it. So you have to have a specific BMS only to manage the elevators. So that sort of system, if it is going to be there in a buildings, over a period of time, it becomes redundant. And it's, so one of the point which was discussed earlier in today's venue was like, how about others going to manage the systems of other elevators? It's like, for example, Otis is being managed by Tyson Group. If it is going to be a closed system, you cannot, and the developer is always going to be dependent upon Otis for doing a management. For 20 years down the line, you have to depend upon him. So if the open system comes, the management gets opened up, it's much easier to manage the building. And building is not only for 20 years, it's planned for 60 years or 70 years. So open system is always good to go ahead in a building management system.
I think we should move towards that open system. That will be more. Okay, let me come to the actual, benefits of AI for building project. There may be predominantly two kinds of users for a building project, be it commercial or residential. One user is a facility agencies, who are responsible for building the buildings, and other are the actual users, either the residents or the office users. Facility agencies, it may be possible to train them in handling the AI because there's a lot of training required. In fact, for other people, that is for the users, the tech savviness may vary a lot in the Indian context. What is your comment? So maybe Juhi can start with it, and maybe, or you or Satish Kumar can add to that later on.
I think this should not really be an issue because every technology has an adoption life cycle curve. So initially, in most of the technologies, if you take any technology for an example, so initially the adoption is very, very slow. But as the time passes, I think adoption is not really an issue. It all depends primarily on how good is the product or the technology is. If it is able to prove its effectiveness or relevance, then adoption is never an issue. Also, we have to keep in mind that how easy it is to perceive the technology or the product, how easy it is to use. Like if we talk of the Facebook or any other social media platform, it's a simple example. No matter what kind of algorithms are working behind the scene, the user interface is very, very simple. It's very easy to, operate these kind of social platforms, social media platforms. Similarly, if these technologies, they create very simple to use and easy to understand user interfaces, then I think adoption should not be a problem at all. In fact, I see a problem on the other side, not on this side. I mean, according to one of the reports of Deloitte, as far as tech savviness is concerned, India is among top 10 countries. It ranks, I think, 7th if I'm not wrong. But the problem, what I see, is not on the user side, but rather on the technology provider side. How many technology providers or product or service providers are actually, adopting these technologies or using these technologies to make products more accessible and inclusive? Maybe we can ask the audience here. I mean, how many product or service providers are present here? Any product or service provider? Okay, so are you really consider using AI or these new technologies to understand what are the needs of different user groups like person with disabilities, elderly, women and children? Are you aware of that? Are you using it?
Anyone using any answers for that? No.
Maybe you can answer it later if we we have. Meanwhile, somebody else can answer the question and mic can be passed on to the person.
Hi, I am Jagdish. I am a vertical transportation consultant myself. So all these latest technologies like IoT you are asking about are being used, and when we spec the product specifications and all, IoT is being made an integral part of this. And other thing what you asked, the disabled friendly features, RPWD Act, every builder nowadays gives us a list of that RPWD checklist which is specific to elevators. Like the handrail in the elevator car, what height it should be, are there any ramps leading to the elevators, audio visual, braille fixtures, so many things.
So these are the standards and specifications which have already been provided. So they are following the standards, but I'm not too sure if these technologies are being used to further improve the product that you have. So that's what I meant.
See, I personally feel that that there is a lot of continuous change which is happening, and there is a lot of data assimilation that's already taking place, and all that is left now is the AI integration. It's like probably the security camera which detects the number of cars coming inside a premises can send information to the elevators. So the real-time information passover will be extremely quick, and probably the traffic data would also be, so I feel that there is no escape from all the platforms being very open. That's the real truth. I think cities will have digital twins, buildings have already started having digital twins, and everything is going to get mapped very soon, and it is happening at a very fast pace. So it's like every communication system will be talking to each other very, very fluidly, and the information increase is very drastic.
See, just to add on to this, having a digital twin alone doesn't help you in terms of managing the system, okay? So it should be very accessible. It should be user friendly. So there are so many other systems like in the digital twin itself, you can have it more of a gamified platform, an Unreal Engine, because most of the kids, if you see, they are very fond of playing. So if your platform is going to be in such a way that it is much easier to be worked out or usable, it makes anyone to use it. See, construction industry, if I have to say, as per McKinsey, it's going to be somewhere around $13 trillion industry, which is about 13% of the overall GDP of the world. You can see how much of contribution it's making right now. And on a daily basis, it has to grow. So once you start growing it, right, So it has to be more technically driven. So if you are technical driven, it has to be more user friendly. So when you are doing a facility management, any real estate developer for residential, it will be after 2 years. It will be taken by an association to manage the development. So you cannot expect a tech savvy to be there, sitting over there to manage the entire development, okay, right? So it has to be AI driven. When it is AI driven and integrated with ML, that is machine learning, the system itself learns it. How the building is getting operated over the past 2 years. So it gives you upfront information about how to manage the building itself. So each and every system which is there, it starts responding to you. It will tell you like, this is the time you have to maintain it. All your PPMs will be started working it out. Your predictive maintenance will be even informed to the management or the association to manage. So in this way, what happens is, basically, you will be able to economize and becomes more user friendly, and you don't have to actually rely on the facility. You have to self-dependent. So the users will become more easier to use it.
Correct. Actually, I think whatever we do progress, cost becomes still an important factor. You did say economize, but tell me one thing is basically for you, this Satish Kumar. How do you do the cost benefit analysis when you want to make AI a part of the building? Because end of the day, everything is cost, right? How is it handled at the architectural level and execution level? Are there any maintenance costs? Because today every person is worried about the outgoing cost. And the new modern buildings are nearly 10 times the outgoing cost of the old building. So that this comparison is always there. So what are your comments on that? Any one of you can start with you, Satish Kumar.
In any project, we have both aspects. One is CapEx and the OpEx. Initially, the developers only depend upon the CapEx. And the OpEx part is very limited maintenance. Okay. So having this as a scenario, the cost benefit analysis has to be made in such a way that the developer or the user is equally gained. It's a win-win situation for both. So when the designs have been made, it has to be quite economical, user friendly, and it should also respondent. And if you have a proper maintainability accessibility tool, which is like integration with AI, what happens is, it is much easier. You have a upfront information about the product when you have to maintain it, rather than root cause analysis, what we generally do. If a shutdown happens all of a sudden, the machine is running for last 2 years or 3 years extensively, and you are not understanding the machine, how is it working, then what happens is, it comes to a shutdown, 3 to 4 days it's maintained, and then it has a direct impact onto your cost.
Correct.
So here what you have to do is, you have to understand the machine. The machine has to be put onto a maintenance perspective. So okay, after 2 years, this has to come for a overhauling. You have to maintain it. So a predictive maintenance has been managed for every equipment. Let it be a chiller, let it be a lift, let it be a any equipment which is going to, because machinery you cannot predict. It can come to a standstill at any point of time, unlike the building. So it should be a cost benefit analysis worked out. Like apart from the capex which the developer looks at, he also has to look into the OpEx part of it, whether the end user will have an impact on it.
Any comments? So Venkatesh from your
Yeah,
side?
I think there are known cost and there are hidden cost. There are also invisible costs. There are costs that you think are necessary cost, but that happens because of, as what he said, if you do not have a predictive analysis to try and say a failure is going to happen, you know, if you do not do a maintenance. But if you are not even aware of that failure, what happens is you assume that this wear and tear will normally happen, and that you have to spend this cost. But when you do a predictive analysis, you are able to extend the life of the investment that you have done. And I think IoT as well as AI helps in ensuring that you're spending the cost at the right time, and making sure that you're not unnecessarily spending cost. But this learning process is obviously going to take a little time, because we are all tuned to saying, if you have a comprehensive AMC, these are the changes that need to be made. Either sometimes higher cost equipments are not changed. They try to extend the life by not understanding where the failures are happening. But with IoT and AI coming in, you're having a lot more data, even on mechanical product lines, so which enables you to extend the life of the product.
A question to you, Jui. Do you think a cost-benefit analysis to the people who will be now moving over, does it need kind of a education to be done with the people, the users, or it is not required? It will happen automatically. You need to educate them that why it is costing, not saying costing, it has a value to it. Cost and value are two different things, right? We always say it is the same thing, but they're different things. So that value, cost benefit or value analysis, do you think some education will be required in the initial stages of transformation or changeover? You can answer, then Venkatesh can.
Probably, I'll just take that question. See, the advantage in today's environment is if you have a SaaS model, the initial sell to try and have the product to be purchased is not there. So you're not actually investing, and you start seeing the benefits once the data points are coming in. So I think it's lesser, difficulty to make a sale like that, because you can start seeing the benefits coming in pretty quickly because the data points are coming in pretty fast.
Joey, any comments on that? Do you think your company, is it on the agenda that you will have to educate the people? What do you think on the cost benefit?
Certainly, I think long term, they have to look at the life cycle, of cost as well. So it is not just the upfront cost. We can also take an example of green buildings. So initial cost is very high, but if you look at the long term, then I think it is worth going for it. But it is very difficult usually, to kind of educate people on that, and especially, cost-driven markets like developers. If it becomes difficult for them to make a sale, because it is all sale-driven. So if somebody else is selling a same kind of an apartment at a much lower cost, but this is green, so anyone would go for the other one. So I think awareness needs to be created at both the levels, in fact at different levels, at the user level also for citizens or the buyer group, and also the developers that okay fine, you are initially investing into it, but long term we have a responsibility of saving the environment as well. So that is true for anything, for any kind of a technology.
Actually, we could feel that when we started moving to green building, people used to say on per square feet, green building is costing more than 150 rupees, which was converted to the area would be a huge cost for any buyer or something.
Absolutely. And for accessible buildings also, I think we need to create awareness that initially, if you implement the design specification at the initial level, before you've actually constructed the building, it is much lesser, because you are anyway, installing lifts. You are anyway installing, you making pathways and all the other design elements. You just need to make small little changes. So there's hardly any change in the cost. But once the building has been constructed and then you make a change, there could be a cost increment of approximately 25 to 30%, which is a lot. So I think, yes, awareness needs to be created, whether it is about green building or accessible building.
I think it has to be more than awareness. A little bit of education has to be there. Okay, let's talk about system failures. Many times, if system fails, everything comes to a halt. We have examples of airports, we have example of banks. If system fails, stop. So how is it handled in case of building? This is a general question to everybody. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the developer can start, because finally you are at the receiving end from the users of the building, right? If system fails, what?
See, that's the reason what we are trying to say as a developer is risk mitigation as well as predictive analysis. These are the two things which any developer will always think upon before putting the systems in place. So if you are not having a proper risk mitigation plan, it's a difficulty for any operator to operate a building. And the turnaround time is also a major important aspect which we take into consideration before bringing any project into operations. So operations plays a major role, and commissioning of any system is also very much important. Going over a period of time, there is no, which we have to start implementing, called as a commissioning team has to be come in place, which is as per the integrated approach which the lead specifies. Like any project before it comes into operations, a commissioning team has to be there, do a risk mitigation analysis, give a proper system process flow, then come to the existence of a project. Or else what happens is, when this sort of situations happens, when a system entirely fails and the entire project is come to a overhaul, it brings to quite a lot of disaster for not only in terms of the cost, to the reputation of the developer itself. So as a team, this systems has to be integrative, having everyone in place, having a risk mitigation plan in place, and also having a predictive analysis in place so that the project doesn't have to face any sort of disruption in over a period of time.
Anyone else on this?
Yeah, I think analytics were actually human measured all these days. But today we are having machine driven analytics which are coming, and machine driven prediction also of problems has also started. And so I think those are more efficient and more in real time. So these show the weakening of systems, these show the disruptions that could happen well in advance. And real time data which comes through machine learning is obviously something which is the future, and I think that will sort out a lot of problems.
Yeah, it may be probably software related problems. You have to be a bit more proactive. I think Venkatesh may have a better.
I have a slightly different take here. We are going into a digital world, right? Of course, there are a lot of unknowns as yet in a lot of these, new technologies that are coming in. So there are two, very dramatically different possibilities that you have. One is, of course, cybersecurity is an aspect. So we've all starting to see that a digital warfare can probably be shutting down power plants, shutting down air conditioning, maybe heating loads in buildings. So that's clearly a possibility. But of course, it's a early stage. So there's going to be a lot of learnings on that side. The second aspect I would say is that while AI in a lot of these fields are coming in, there's also going to be learnings on how AI would provide data to you. So there is clear possibilities that you could hack into AI data and try and give you a wrong data, which means your whole algorithm is probably working in a different direction, right? But having said that, all of us have to accept the fact that everything on cloud, AI-driven, world is going to be there. So we need to try and figure out how do we have safety measures, communication, both in communication and at field level. How do you, safeguard certain key functions that don't necessarily depend on a cloud, information to take decisions locally. So I think that's a learning curve that we will go through, and I'm sure we'll be more successful in that space.
That will be the transition stage. Okay, how can collaborative efforts among architects, developers, engineers, who are the basic people who make the whole building, and even the consultants for that matter, who share or add a lot of value, lead to more effective solution for inclusive building designs from the AI perspective for everything, including the elevator? So this is the open question. Anyone can take it. Maybe Dr. Paresh, you can start with it.
So my first input, I will start with a nice hypothesis that gap do exist between and among the elevator manufacturer of product or services versus all the users other side. There is a gap, and many times both are face to face. I think they need to educate each other. That's an improvement area. Now coming to consulting and advisory part, if you ask me personally, we play a very supportive role. We support architects, developers, understanding the total requirement of building, including usage and peak populations, many other data, right? And we run in our traffic study, we do vertical transportation simulations. We recommend them the system design, and even do support in complying with other vendors, because we have one major problem with elevator manufacturing company. Nobody is same on a same platform, right? So it's very crucial role just to ensure that ultimate users comfort. That's a bottom line, right? And one important aspect, we do share the best practices with our clients, that what is best in class happening. but you rightly said capex and opex. And the reality, I'll tell you, when the developer is starting a project, he wants best in class. But when come to the next step, OPEX, that best in class, become little moderate. But this is a reality, very crucial role for a user's point of view. Thanks.
Anyone else on this?
I think collaboration is the key as far as making buildings accessible and inclusive is concerned. Why? Because every stakeholder from that point of view has a different perspective or a different way of looking at how an accessible or inclusive building should be. Architect would have a different viewpoint. Engineer would think differently. Developer, like another speaker said, OPEX and CAPEX, these two things are important. And user group also. So I think, yes, consultant has a very important role to play. If we take an example, from maybe of a green buildings. So in West, we have a lot of, glass buildings. So in India, possibly some architects, from aesthetic point of view, in Gurgaon and many other cities, we came up with a lot of these glass buildings. Possibly an architect might have suggested it. No offenses to any architect, but yes, if you talk to any engineer or department which is supposed to pay the electricity bills, they would have never approved of it, because in our country where sunshine, we have sunny days. So we can't really afford to have these kind of glass buildings in the country. They are not at all feasible, because it has actually increased the consumption of electricity, and hence, cost has gone up like anything. So yes, we have to take into consideration the viewpoint, the perspective of all the stakeholders, so that once we come up with a building, we don't need to redo it again. And especially the user group, I would say, because like I am speaking from the viewpoint of persons with disabilities, elderly, women and children. So we have to make sure that we take their viewpoint. Ultimately they have to use it. So it is important that we take into consideration what exactly are their needs and what exactly they expect from us. Thank you.
Anyone else? Venkatesh?
Yeah, so what I feel is, like, we are still talking at this level about human interface, whereas you know that design is getting parametric today. So it will be like probably a built unit will have probably around, say, 400 different components coming in, probably whether it's civil, MEP, or whatever is coming, the fire, whatever, air conditioning, so many things that come in. So a lot of things which we are doing based on perception today, or from singular points or through an interface of multiple consultants, are now being mapped through parametrics. So probably we create a floor plate, we create the number of floors, we create a user interface. The parametrics will clearly tell us the kind of elevators that are required, they clearly tell us the kind of staircases that are required. So the human interface, where we assume a lot of things, or a lot of things are based on past experience, this kind of processes are going to dissolve. So the complicated, I still feel we are in the version 1 of the first mobile phone today, and we have seen in 15 years the technology has evolved to a great extent. So similarly in design, we are already noticing and straight away that like the very beginning of parametrics, which is helping us design better, making it more efficient, more sustainable, and it's just the beginning. So once I think all the components start getting parametric, I think these things will be just away at the touch of a button.
See, I have a little bit of a change in the thought process. As a developer, we employ consultants, having a thought that whatever is latest, whatever is new in the market, and because we are going to develop a project which is going to be one of its kind, is what the common statement which every developer thinks about his building which is going to come out. So the expectations from the consultants is like he comes out with the innovativeness, because developer doesn't have an opportunity to travel across to have multiple projects to be built, but he is dependent entirely on the consultant. It's not even his in-house team who he relies on. He relies on the final statement from the consultant. So what are the two aspects which he asks from any consultant is, as per the statutory requirements, am I able to meet the government statutory requirements or not? That is the first aspect. Second is whether my building meets to the capex and opex. Okay, these are the two major questions which any developer asks. So when he asks this question, the architect, who is the principal of any development, any project, he has to be more of an integrative approach where he learns that this is the design brief which has been given to him, and he interacts with all the other consultants. Like currently the project which I am handling right now is around 22 different consultants, right from lighting, traffic, for MEP, for lift, for entire pedestrian retail, everything we have. But who is going to be a center point, who is going to give a developer, this is what the final product is the architect. So he has to take it forward as an integrative approach and tell the developer, this building is as per the code, it's been designed, and this is as per what you are going to be one of its kind, and also fits to your budget. So if these three questions have been properly answered by the architect or the consultants who's been employed by the developer, that solves the problem.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is everyone has a role, but they should know their job very well. Then that's the time that collaborative approach will give results. Yeah, Venkatesh.
Yeah, I think there is a dynamism here, and a bit of an agility is required. You just look at pre-COVID and post-COVID buildings, right? Nobody ever thought about wellness as an important aspect. Today, wellness has to be brought, is to be brought part of the building itself. So I think it's going to be moving goals. I'm sure we're going to be talking about saying that we did not have foresight on certain other things that comes in. But I think as long as we can keep our designs and our technologies agile to meet some of these critical requirements, I think we have done a fairly good job.
Yeah, I think from what you discussed for the last more than 45 minutes, end of the day, 5 years down the line, we are going to get the best. Maybe probably it may start with the metros, maybe flow down to the two-tier cities. So I would say thank you very much before we ask the audience to throw in their questions to the panelists.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Kishore. I also come with a military background. I don't know if already thought process is in place. When we talk about inclusiveness, we talk about, say, sensitivity of children or elderly people with certain challenge. So when there is a lift which doesn't work and we need to take them out to hospital, or someone needs to reach out to them for emergency. So you need something like in data networking, in computer packet handling, you need multiple ways that some lift which is good can reach out to them. So not just monolith, one vertical straight line. You can have something like a lift which can navigate horizontally and go up, and then substitute for the one which temporarily not working or got stuck up when there is an emergency situation. Also, we have a dictum that when there is a fire, don't use lifts. But there are some multiple lifts. One lift, if by intelligence this particular circuit is in problem, you can quarantine and you can offload many people in the other circuits which are still not affected. So they, instead of waiting all people to come down in the staircase, especially in case of inclusivity, disability scenarios. So also the cabling. For telecommunication, we have cables which are intelligent about fire. They are resilient about fire, and they are also cables which can burn themselves to avoid transmission of fire to others. And this kind of approach can also be used in design of lift systems for future. Thank you.
I think what you mentioned are to a certain extent taken care of, but I think Paresh Karia will be the right person to explain or tell the latest in the elevator industry. What he said was true, very much true. What you're saying is true 3 years, 5 years back. Now things have changed, but maybe you can update people about what has changed.
Latest update, I'll tell you. Old days, I think what you described was a challenge, but now every manufacturer, they give you emergency number, toll-free number. There are a lot of digital applications, right? From a smartphone, you can just connect and get the immediate support. Work in progress, to be honest, not to the level of delight we are expecting today, but lot of work in progress. Today we are at the users level. Some safe feeling is there, not like old days. Traveling elevator was like but things are improving nowadays.
Yeah, now one thing, just add to what Dr. Paresh Karia said. Today, there's a remote sensing device right at the server level of every manufacturer, which takes care of that. In addition to that, things like battery operated device, except that horizontal motion is something probably the architects will be able to tell, can the elevators travel horizontally? Yes, but a transportation system in a building, a shopping mall, shopping complex, can be made where theaters are there, shopping malls are there. There, I think a pathway of moving the people using the combination of elevators, escalators, maybe other
Travelators,
system
yeah.
can be made. That can be made. But I think 5 years down the line, this will be Baba Dam ke zamane ka days kind of
See,
situation.
as a developer, we have to add on to is, at my home, we have already started thinking on these lines. And we have already implemented this facility management through 7D BIM, where the elevators are also monitored and all the equipments are also monitored. So if an equipment comes to a preventive maintenance or it has come to an overhaul, immediately the information is passed on to the facility manager or also the installer. Basically, after 10 years or 20 years the building is running, many of times we'll be avoiding the documentation part. So when we are integrating the digital twin with the documentation in the cloud computing, what happens is it's much easier to download the past informations also. Basically, all your past as-built drawings, most of the times, many buildings which are there across India, they don't have the as-built drawings itself. But these can be done and managed, not as hard copies, you can manage as soft copies into the cloud. And when there is a overhaul coming or any system has stopped, immediately there is a backnet system which integrates with your mainframe, where the facility manager will get intimation like so and so system has come to a overhaul. And apart from that, the same information goes to the person who has installed it also. For example, Schindler has installed a lift. The Schindler will get an information saying that so-and-so lift has come to a standstill in so-and-so building. So these sort of systems is already in place. And we are working out on an analysis model also to avoid these sort of system. That is the reason I have explained about risk mitigation and preventive maintenance. So if these things have been integrated, so any sort of future instances can be avoided.
Any more questions? Okay, if no more, Kanishka, we have some time. We got a very interesting closing exercise which is going to be done by Juhi. So if you have time for that, if we can go ahead with it, let me know. Do
So
we have time?
I would need a volunteer for that. Anyone who would like to volunteer? And someone can please take note of time. So we have to blindfold her. She needs to stay there only, and maybe she can stand there at the back of the hall. Yeah. Or maybe you can start from here. What's your name? Dhwani. So Dhwani, you can just stand here first. And we need to adjust the camera. Actually, our cameras are there, so I don't know. So what you need to do is you have to walk straight till there, and somebody will take a note of time, that how long did you take to reach that wall, right? And once you reach this, she will blindfold you, and then you have to come back again to this place. And then again, we'll take note of a time, that how much time did you take to kind of come back to this place, right? So you just need to go there like that. So okay, start, please. You may please go. Normally, if you would go, I mean, just go. All right, stop. How long did she take?
11. seconds.
11 seconds. Now someone can blindfold her, please. So you have to come again till this point, okay? Someone please assist her so that she doesn't fall. Someone stays, possibly someone can stay, walk along with her. Yes, you may please start now. Don't hold her, yeah. Don't hold her, yeah. Just walk with her, walk along with her. Just stop. How long did she take?
16 seconds.
All right, so you can just, yeah. So Dhwani, would you like to share your experience with everyone? How was it, when you walked up to that wall and when you came back? The difference in the experience?
When I walked, I was able to see. I had the trust, but when I was walking back, even though she was there with me, but I still lacked the confidence in that walking back.
Now that's the life of a person with visual impairment. They lack the confidence. They are, when they're navigating any space or, when they have to travel, this is the kind of a difficulty. While this was a very clear passage and somebody was there to assist her, even then she took longer time to reach the destination. So we can imagine the kind of pain, the kind of agony people with disabilities go through every day. So my request to everyone that whenever you design a product or a service, please take into consideration the needs of diverse user groups, people with disabilities, women, elderly, and children. Please try to contribute in making their lives better and easier. So this exercise was just meant for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juhi. That was an eye-opening exercise for all of us. I'm assuming there are no more questions from the audience and we will conclude this session. Thank you, panelists. It was a riveting session with a lot of knowledge exchange. I would now request you to step forward so Anita ma'am can hand over the mementos to you. I also have one more request of you. Right outside the conference hall, we are taking video bites, so if you'd be so good enough to give us your opinion, your feedback. Please step ahead. Thank you so much. Can we please have a group photograph? Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a big round of applause for this panel. All the speakers and Mr. Kulkarni, thank you for moderating.